Well, hi everyone. This is Dr. Jackie Krause, and I'd like to welcome you to our very first module, Module 1 of ADMG 476, Managing Project Uncertainty. Risk is measurable uncertainty, but uncertainty is an unmeasurable risk. Let's talk about that a little bit as we go through. Our first module is Module 1 on risk. So our module overview, this particular one is 4 weeks long, and we have 2 discussion questions and 2 assignments. So there are actually 4 modules in the class. Each module runs a different amount of time, so that I don't want you to think that each module is 4 weeks. They are not. This just happens to be one of the longer modules. The reading for this week, or the reading for this module may seem like it's quite a bit from the Project Management Systems Approach textbook. There are 6 chapters, but I really encourage you to go out to the Module 1 introduction page and then scroll down into that page, and you will find a table that breaks down week by week assessment of what you should be doing and how you should be approaching the class, or at least that module. It actually recommends that you read chapter 1 and 2 during week 1, 5 and 7 during week 2, and 9 and 17 during week 3 to give you the best background, and so you're not so overwhelmed with all of it. There are 2 really good videos in this particular module. The first one, Cone of Uncertainty, which gives you a lot of meaning and definition and explanation around the phrase uncertainty. What does it mean? What does uncertainty mean in a project? And then I really like the silver lining of Project Uncertainty. Even though it is a bit long, it is an interview video, and it goes over how we turn uncertainty into a really positive, a really good thing. And that can be a challenge to look at. How can we look at risk, and how can we look at uncertainty as being positives? So I really encourage you to listen to that one, because there's good information in there that may help you in some of the assignments and some of the work that we're going to do in this particular module. And then there's a couple of additional resources in the forms of websites, web pages, one on positive versus negative risk, and then one on managing project uncertainty. So we are conditioned to think the phrase risk means something bad. So as we go through and we look at project risk, we quickly begin to realize that not all risk is bad. In fact, sometimes risk can be a good thing, and our key here is we want to make sure that we identify negative risk and figure out ways to mitigate, or how to make sure that that negative risk doesn't negatively impact our project. But when we find positive risks, we want to look at ways in which we can exploit that positive risk. Maybe it's something good for the organization. Maybe it's something that we can then turn around and maybe we've got a new project that's going to help the organization make a whole bunch of money. Who knows? But we want to look at risk in terms of both positive and negative. And then, of course, managing project uncertainty, that's going to come into play a little bit later, because we're going to have a part of an assignment that wants to say, well, okay, well, how do we manage project uncertainty? So don't forget to look at that particular web resource. Okay, so the first of our 2 discussion questions is, we want to just level set. We want to make sure that everybody is on the same page in understanding the difference between risk and uncertainty. So for your initial response, you want to get into chapter 5 of the text, and you really want to get a good understanding of what's in there. And I want you to be able to identify at least 3 concerns that could be classified as uncertainty, and then 3 things that can be addressed as risk. And here you want to make sure that you provide good, thorough information, good, thorough detail and explanation, and again, support and justify all of your responses. Now, what do I mean by support and justify? Well, I mean, who said? Who said what you're saying there? Where is your support for what you are asserting? So again, that's research, that's references and citations. That's how you support and justify your response. Now, for your peer responses, you're going to choose two people to respond to. You want to identify at least one area where you disagree or are able to add a different perspective. So what I mean by that is, if you disagree, state why you disagree. It be succinct. Provide evidence. Provide evidence. If you agree, and that's okay to say I agree, what is not okay is to simply restate what somebody already else said. Say, oh, I agree, and then restate what they said and say, good job, because that is not having a conversation. A discussion question really should be a conversation between different people with providing different perspectives when possible. So what I'm saying is it's okay to agree, but what I want you to do is I want you to add a significant amount of new information. Add some new perspective. Go out, do some research and say, I agree with you. And as I was researching this, I ran across the following, and add value. Add a new perspective, add more value, expand on the response. Do not simply restate and move on, okay? So that's the first discussion question. Our second discussion question, I really like this one. I think this one's a lot of fun because now you're going to the project management case study book and you're reading the case study on Disney Imagineering, Project Management in Action, The Haunted Mansion. And this case study goes over all kinds of different things that happen, all kinds of different risks that occurred during the development and build of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. So for your initial response, I want you to choose any 3 of the 9 questions that are located at the end of the chapter. Okay? There are 9 questions. I don't care which 3 you choose 3. I want you to give a good thorough response to those and again defend your position with research and references. It's real important to make sure you defend your responses. So for your peer responses, you're going to choose again 2 peers, 2 colleagues, review their responses to the questions, identify one area with which you agree and one area with which you disagree, okay, because you've got 3 responses, one you agree, one you disagree. And again, you want to maybe think about making recommendations to points that they may not have considered. That's a great way to disagree and just say, hey, did you think about, did you think about this? Did you think about that? So always support your position, always provide evidence, and always add more value to what you're talking about. All right, so those are the 2 discussion questions. Our first assignment. Assignment 1 is on risk assessment. Now I want to point out that that's due for week 2 of 4 weeks. Week 2, this is due. Now there's 3 parts to this assignment. There's three parts. The first is a short essay. The short essay is 300 to 500 words. 300 to 500 words. I want you to examine something. I want you to examine the potential of how someone who is risk adverse would feel and react to a project where we are experiencing some progressively increasing risk in the project. Okay, so we have individuals who are risk adverse. These are the people who don't like risk, they don't want risk, and they spend a lot of time figuring out ways to avoid risk, risk adverse people. And as you can imagine, when risk is encountered and when we have increasingly progressive risk occurring on the project, you can imagine how these risk adverse people may experience this situation. They may find much more stress. They may be really more stressed out. So I need you to take a good look at this in 300 to 500 words. Include at least 2 good references and write a short essay on that. And then on part 2, there are 7 risk statements that I want you to read, and then I want you to recommend one of the 4 risk strategies, right? Whether they're going to accept the risk, avoid the risk, mitigate the risk, or transfer the risk. Now, it's not enough just to say which strategy they should approach, but justify your decision, justify your choice on this. And then for part 3, evaluate 9 forms of procurement contracts. Now remember, for procurements, we've got 9 different types of procurement contracts. And I want you to look at who accepts the greatest risk in each of those contract scenarios. And again, justify your response. It's really important that you be able to justify why you believe this to be true. Procurement contracts, procurement as a whole is an area where we experience a great deal of risk because, we don't know if these outside vendors are going to deliver what they say they're going to deliver, when they say they're going to deliver it, and with the quality that we expect them to deliver. So different forms of contracts are put in place which transfer the risk from one place to another. I want you to look at those, and I want you to be real clear on evaluating who accepts the risk. Your second assignment is a paper, a 1,200 to 1,500 word paper. Now you should have a real good understanding between the difference between project uncertainty and project risk. So now we're going to put together a 1,200 to 1,500 word paper that's going to have you discuss 3 different topics. Now I'm a big fan of section headings, so I would encourage you to take those 3 topics and turn them into section headings. The first section would be identify the differences between project risk and project uncertainty. Here you might want to go back to some of that reading that we had and the videos that we had, because you'll probably get some good information on that. Provide several examples of each. Now, what I mean several, I'm talking at least 2 to 3 examples of project risk and 2 to 3 examples of project uncertainty. And then for the second section, discuss the differences between managing project risk and managing project uncertainty. Now, there was a website out there that we gave to you that was called Managing Project Uncertainty. I'm sure you'll find lots of good information there. And then the third section, discuss how project uncertainty can be positive. So back to that video, silver lining of project uncertainty, and I'll bet you get a lot of good information there as well. So I'm expecting a APA formatted 1,200 to 1,500 words, title page, section headings, in-text citations and references, and 4 good quality references. Now, of course, you can use the material that we've given you as references. That's perfectly okay, but you want to make sure that you properly cite that information as well. So if you have any questions this week during this module that I can help with, you've got my email address. We can set up a Zoom. I hope you enjoy this class and this module. And of course, I always appreciate you letting me know what I can do to make it better for you. Take care, have a great module, and I look forward to working with you. Bye-bye.